Yo, what's good? What's good? Man, there I go again. Anyways, welcome back. So, if y'all have been looking at the finance reports, and I know we talked about the stock market crashing, but if you've been paying attention, you might have noticed there were four people who got out of this unscathed and actually were rewarded pretty nicely. There were four senators who came out of this briefing back in January with a little bit of knowledge that apparently gave them the upper hand when it came to the stock market. In other words, we would call that insider trading because it appears that the knowledge that they were given within this briefing alerted them to something that made them make changes within their portfolios. So, like I said, there's four of them. Two, I'm not really going to speak too much about. One of them a Democrat, one a Republican. I want y'all to know this has nothing to do with the actual parties. No political allegiance or nothing like that. This is showing corruption within both parties, which we've already known was true. But Governor Feinstein from California and Governor Inhofe from Oklahoma, we're not really going to speak too much about them. Yes, they're wrong, they're dirty, they're corrupt. The way that they did it, it's not as egregious in my eyes as the two that I really want to hone in on. So the two that I'm gonna hone in on are Senator Kelly Loeffler from Georgia, yeah, my state, and Senator Robert Burr from North Carolina. And I'm gonna start with Kelly Loeffler. Okay, now after this January 24th briefing, I believe, she came out and she told everybody that she was completely secure in her belief that the preparedness that America had in plan and in place was ready to go, while simultaneously somehow having her financial advisors dump stocks that were plummeting or were about to plummet and still find the right stocks that were going to rise. Now, one of the companies that her advisors, and the reason I say her advisors is because when you see her in her Fox News interview, I can't remember the host that she was talking to, but when he was asking her about these questions, the main thing that she would say was, well, I have financial advisors and, well, they do everything, so I don't know until after a transaction's been this, that, and the other. So she was basically passing the buck. Some bullshit, basically what politicians do. But one of the companies that her advisors ended up putting money into was one of the biggest telecommuting companies out there, Centrix. Now, why is that interesting? Well, at that point, telecommuting or teleworking or teledocking or however you want to call it wasn't really in the cards because most of what the president was saying, most of what the White House was saying was this isn't a pandemic, this isn't an epidemic, this isn't an issue. We have few cases, we're getting it handled, we're solving it. So, in the midst of you trying to reassure the country that nothing's going wrong, you happen to just stumble upon, a company that in a couple months is going to be one of the biggest things out there right now that can survive things because so many workers are going to have to work from home. It just seemed very, very convenient. But not as convenient as when you think about who her husband is. Right, her husband is literally the chairman of the New York Stock Exchange. Like, come on, man. Like, y'all don't see anything wrong with that? Like nothing? Like, we can't call it for what it is? Like, at least a conflict of interest. Like this is ridiculous. And with her representing my state, I felt the need to really harp on the fact that she, who is a new senator, I believe she said she's just got in office in 2020, like, this isn't a great foot to start on. Like, you kind of want to build a little reputation before you start your corruption. At least do it the good old fashioned way. I mean, you trying to be, like McConnell 2.0, just off rip. Like, I'm just going to come up in here and just do whatever I want to do because now I have the power. Like, that's not how it's supposed to be, shawty. I gotta, damn. Whatever. So, that's Loeffler. Burr. Now, Burr, he did it so blatantly egregious that it's just like, that you're gonna get caught, right? Like, you just know. Like, there's no way my man thinks that he's just gonna slide through, bro. All right. So I believe they were saying about 2 years ago, this man's net worth was about $1.7 million, and I believe it was around the same this year. So after this briefing that he got, which I believe he was in charge of because he was the head of the Senate Intel Committee. Excuse me. He uh, he just dumped everything. He dumped every one of his stocks. In 33 different transactions, he was able to dump off all 1.7 million of his stocks. So he basically threw away everything that he owned. Why would you do that unless you had a belief that you knew something was going to happen or something was going to work for you? And apparently it did, because he's never been known as some financial guru, some economic guy who understands the numbers, who can run the tables, this, that, and the other. That's never been him. So I'm trying to really understand how now all of a sudden you can do this. Man, stop. So he didn't do any sales. 33 different transactions on the day that he dropped all his stuff. He didn't do any sales. Everything were buys. I mean, he didn't do any buys. Everything were sales. He just got rid of everything. And apparently it worked in his favor because he ended up becoming a little bit richer afterwards. And look, this right here is just a small sample size of what's really going on behind closed doors when these senators who are getting all this power to make these decisions are really just influenced by the money that continues to fill their pockets. They're not doing this in their best interest. We have to figure out a way to change this system because it's no longer working if it ever was. We have got to do something different. Right now, we have got to do something different. Even though we're quarantined, even though we're social distancing, it doesn't mean that we can't continue to figure out ways to fight this corruption, because once we have a chance to get things back in place, we don't need to go back to the same bullshit. We need to be able to move forward, and we don't need people like these four trying to get rich off of a pandemic and off of a crisis while everybody else is losing everything that they own.